Scholar Katrine Kiefer led a group of researchers who interviewed members of this team about their experiences of working together. She identified an evolution in the way the team talked and listened that accorded with a model that her colleague Otto Scharmer was in the process of developing. This model posits that there are 4 distinct ways in which we can talk and listen that are differentiated by the place from which we are operating. These 4 ways differ according to whether they give priority to one whole or to multiple parts, and to whether they reenact existing realities or enact new ones. We employ these 4 ways, sometimes intentionally and sometimes habitually, in different settings and sequences. At the beginning of the first workshop of the Visión Guatemala team, they were deeply mistrustful of one another and reluctant to engage. Project Director Elena Diaz-Pinto recalled, "When I arrived at the hotel for lunch, before the start of the initial meeting, the first thing I noticed was that the indigenous people were sitting together. The military guys were sitting together. The human rights group was sitting together. I thought, they are not going to speak to each other. In Guatemala, we have learned to be very polite. We are so polite that we say yes, but think no. I was worried that we would be so polite that the real issues would never emerge." This is the first way of talking and listening, which Scharmer calls downloading. Here, I listen from within myself and my story. I am deaf to other stories. I hear only what confirms my own story. I knew that already. The talking, associated with downloading, is telling. I say what I always say because I think that my story is either the only true one or the only one that is safe or polite to tell. I assert that there is only one whole, for example, one objective or team or strategy, and ignore or suppress others. Downloading is the typical behavior of experts, fundamentalists, dictators, and people who are arrogant or angry or afraid. Stretch collaborations among people who don't agree with or like or trust one another always start in downloading mode. The truth is, later, during that first Visión Guatemala workshop, the team expressed their different views of what had been going on in the country. As team member Gonzalo de Villa recalled, "The first round in the first session was extremely negative, because we were all looking back to the events of recent years which had left a deep imprint on us. A first moment full of pessimism was generated. Suddenly, a young man stood up and questioned our pessimism in a very direct manner. This moment marked the beginning of an important change, and we continually referred to it afterwards. That a young man would suddenly call us old pessimists was an important contribution." This second way of talking and listening is debating. Here, I listen from the outside, factually and objectively, like a judge in a debate or a courtroom. This is correct, and that is incorrect. The talking associated with debating is a clash of ideas. Each person says what he or she thinks, and some ideas and people win and others lose. This mode is more open than downloading because people are now expressing their different views and are aware that these are their views and not the truth. In my opinion. During the Visión Guatemala team's second workshop, they engaged in a difficult conversation about what had happened during the Civil War. Julio Balconi, a retired Army general, struggled to get the others to understand why he had done what he had during the war, which was a perspective that most of the others were not sympathetic to. Raquel Zelaya, the Cabinet Secretary of Peace charged with overseeing the implementation of the peace accords, leaned over to him and said gently, "I know that nobody enrolls in the military academy in order to learn how to massacre women and children." This third kind of talking and listening is dialoguing. Here, I listen to others as if from inside them, empathetically and subjectively. I hear where you are coming from. The talking associated with dialoguing is self-reflective. In my experience, this mode opens up new possibilities because now we are working with multiple living holons, each expressing its power and love. In the previous chapter, I wrote about the time in the Visión Guatemala workshop when Ronald Ochaeta told the story of having witnessed the exhumation of a mass grave, which was followed by the 5 minutes of silence in the team. This was the incident that many members of the team later referred to and that one said was like a large communion. This fourth way of talking and listening is presencing. This neologism combines pre-sensing, sensing what is in the process of coming into being, and being fully present. Here I listen not from within myself or another, paying attention just to one specific idea or person, but from the larger system. What I am noticing here and now is when I am in a group that is presencing, it is as if the boundaries between people have disappeared, so that when one person talks, he or she is articulating something for the whole group or system, and when I listen, it is as if to the whole group or system. Ochaeta was not a core member of the Visión Guatemala team, and although he told the story, the team did not really hear it as his story. They heard it as an expression of a crucial aspect of the Guatemalan reality that they needed to pay attention to and act on. Diaz Pinto and I talked at length about the significance of this 5 minutes of silence. She quoted a phrase from the Popol Vuh, the local sacred book of the Quiche people. We did not put our ideas together. We put our purposes together. And we agreed, and then we decided. She and I thought that Ochaeta's story had enabled the team to go beyond their individual ideas and experiences to discover their shared purpose, and that this purpose enabled them to work together over the years that followed, notwithstanding their differences. Presencing is a shared sense of the potential of a whole that includes and transcends our individual wholes. All 4 of these modes of talking and listening are legitimate and useful. It's not that we need to employ only one mode, but rather that we need to be able to move fluently and fluidly among them. And if we spend all our time downloading and debating, then we will only reenact existing realities. We will continue to think what we have been thinking and do what we have been doing. If we want to co-create new realities, then we need to be able to spend at least some of our time dialoguing and presencing.